Hey there, my name is sjofors, and I'm also known as the Price Whisperer. There's a long story of why I'm called the Price Whisperer, and I'm not gonna bore you with it here. But for sure, if you want to get hold of me, it's a lot easier to do a Google search for the Price Whisperer. You'll find my books, you'll find my company, and you'll find me should you ever want to connect with me in any way, shape, or form. And I'm happy to connect, of course. Anyway, in this video, in this episode, we're going to talk about the importance of having a holistic view on your pricing strategy. And what I mean with that is the following. There's a tremendous misconception out there in the marketplace that pricing in some way is living in a vacuum, is living void from the rest of the company's operation. But that's not the case at all. Pricing doesn't live in a vacuum. Pricing is is a result of everything you do in your company. Let me explain that. What it really means is that your company delivers something to your clients, right? Something of value. The more value you deliver, the more the higher prices you can charge, because your customers perceive that what they're buying from you having a higher value than something else they may be buying from somebody else at a lower price. Now, how do you get that value? Well, first of all, we have to understand that this is perception of value. There's ways with there's some theories called economic value pricing, return on investment pricing, which are pricing strategies that comes out of academia and that has nothing to do with reality. And what they all say is that as the seller, you are going to understand the economic value that your product or service delivers to the client. And that's an impossible task. It's an impossible task for many reasons. One is that you're never going to get enough detail of your buyers so you can actually make an even close to assessment of what value you deliver. Secondly, you have to do so many assumptions, and recall here that assumption is a euphemism for guessing, right? You have to make so many guesses of so many things that value that you deliver to your client, the actual number, is could be, if you're lucky, if you're the lottery winner this year, yeah, you're spot on. But for the millions and millions of others who's not getting the highest price, is going to be vastly wrong. So and that's why I'm saying that we need to take this from the perception of value, and the perception of value is brought on by many different things. it it obviously starts with your product or your service, and let me talk about this a little. Your product or service meet needs of your customers. It may meet all the needs of your customers. It may meet some needs of your customers. It may be positioned in a certain way, or it may be positioned in a different way. The way you market that product or service will differ depending on which market segment you want to go after, how you do your marketing, what market segments that you approach, with what channels you market makes a difference. The words you're using obviously make a difference, and also the product or service features that you push in your marketing will make a difference. And eventually, also the way you sell makes a difference. The sales channels you use make a difference, and obviously the price itself makes a difference. So, in order to take a holistic view on pricing, strategy, I should say, requires you to understand not only what your customers are willing to pay, but very specifically what they are willing to pay for, right? What are the specific feature, functions, and benefits of your product or your service that leads to higher willingness to pay and therefore support higher prices and higher profits and higher revenues than other feature, functions, and benefits? You need to know what customer profiles perceives the highest value in your product or your service, so that you can focus your sales and marketing effort towards those. You need to know what specifically they're willing to pay. You need to know what market segments, what feature, functions, benefits, and so forth they appreciate differently than another market segment, so that you can focus on the right one. You need to know where these particular segments, where they want to learn about your product, how you're going to market it, what marketing messages you're going to use, and obviously you want to make sure you use the marketing channels and the marketing messages that generates the highest willingness to pay and therefore supports the highest possible prices. And the same with sales. You want to know what sales channels and what sales methodologies leads to the highest willingness to pay and therefore the highest supports the highest possible prices, right? And then of course you need to understand what the actual price should be, and in many cases it may need to be stratified in different ways based on the value preferences of your marketplace, and specifically among those in that customer segment that is the most desirable customer segment, right? So if you have a situation, and I've been there more than once, unfortunately, you know, the product is ready to launch. There's a trade show coming up next week. We need to have an ad done. We need to have information for the salespeople. We need to have price lists, both internal price lists. We need to have international price lists. We need to have price lists for our resellers and so forth. And we only have a week to go. So in comes the stormy pricing meeting, where you have people from product management, you have people from marketing, you have people from sales. You may have the executive in there if it's a reasonably small company, right? Sales, and everybody has lots of opinions on what the price should be. The sales typically want lower prices because they believe that their job is easier if the prices are low. Marketing typically say we want value pricing. Well, but then they can't really say what value means in the context here, in the context of their product, in the context of their launch, you know. Finance typically want higher prices because they want higher margins, right? And if there is an executive there, that could be, you know, he or she could sort of either look at lower prices, hopefully sell more, higher prices, hopefully have more profit margin. And in these meetings, the discussion goes back and forth quite a bit, and none of it is based on facts. If there is any facts at all, it may be the actual cost of the product. But often the whole thing ends with that whoever has the highest seniority slams his or her fist on the table and say, this is going to be the price, right? So what's wrong with this? Well, you can say, well, we had people there that knew the market. We have people there that defends our our margin and so forth. Well, what's wrong is that pricing here is an afterthought. Pricing needs to be part of the entire company's operation. You have to take a holistic view on pricing. And what I mean by that is that what product features, functions and benefits, and service features, functions and benefit needs to be defined and developed based on what the market, what customers are willing to pay. So you develop the features and functions that are actually supporting higher prices than other features and functions. You have to understand from a marketing point of view, which customer segment should you focus marketing on, because it's a market segment that would support higher prices. And marketing also needs to know what channels and what messages do these people want to hear to support higher prices, higher profits, right? And sales need to understand, now sales know where to go, because we identified the market segment that is the most desirable one. But sales also need to go, they need to know how should we sell? What is the methodology we're going to sell? Are we going to sell this online? Are we going to sell it direct? Are we going to sell it through resellers? Are we going to do OEM deals maybe? Are we going to create bundles with other third parties? All of this is knowledge that needs to be in the company, because all of this is stuff that supports or not higher prices than others. So, and you have to understand how all of this affects what your customers are willing to pay. So this sounds pretty involved, right? And it is pretty involved. But you know, when you take a fairly average company and you start putting your pricing strategy in the center point of your business strategy, and you make pricing in the context that I mentioned in this video, there's so much that's going to change in your company. It's a complete transformation. And it is that transformation that are leading companies who put pricing in as a centerpiece, or pricing strategy as a centerpiece in their business strategy, and that take that holistic view of that everything matters when it comes to price. Those are the companies that they're the market leader in your industry, guaranteed. Those are the companies that may go from obscurity and over, let's say, a 5-year period, grow 5 times their size. Sometimes even grow 10 times their size, right? Because everything changes. Now, think about this in the context of your company. Even if your company is a small company, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, if you put pricing as the centerpiece here and if you take a holistic view on your pricing strategy, everything's going to change. Everything. And you're going to grow like you've never grown before. You're going to have profits like you never have before. You're going to have market share like you've never had before. And if you own the company, it's going to lead to wealth that you may probably not have had before, right? Anyway, thank you so much for today. I hope you found that interesting. And come back. There's new videos here just about every week. And Google me, The Price Whisperer. And if you have questions on this, please reach out. Again, thanks so much. Bye.